Tonight we are going to do something that sounds almost impossible when the mind is loud. We are going to let the racing mind race and find our rest anyway, not by stopping the thoughts, not by forcing the mind to be quiet, but by learning something gentler and far more freeing, that you do not have to win the fight with your own mind in order to fall asleep. There is a particular kind of tiredness that comes on these nights. The body is heavy and longing for sleep, but the mind will not join it. It runs ahead to tomorrow and back to today. It rehearses conversations that are over or that have not yet happened. And the more you long for it to stop, the louder it seems to grow, until you are lying in the dark, not only tired but frustrated with yourself, wondering why you cannot simply rest. Before we begin, feel free to share what time it is and where you are listening from. You do not need to know anything about Buddhism to rest here, and you do not need to remember a single word in the morning. There is nothing to study and nothing to solve. So take a soft, deep breath. Let your shoulders come down from wherever they have crept. Let the bed take your full weight, and let us begin, together, gently. The first thing to know, and it is a great relief to know it, is that the racing mind at night is not a flaw in you. It is one of the oldest and most universal experiences of being human. You lie down, the doing of the day is finished, and into that sudden stillness the mind pours all the thoughts it had no room for while you were busy. It is not misbehaving, it is doing what minds do. The Buddha noticed this in himself long ago. He watched his own mind wander and chatter and refused to stay still, and he did not scold it. He simply described the mind as naturally restless and hard to hold, the way a fish pulled from the water flaps on dry land. Not because the fish is bad, but because that is simply what a fish does out of water. The mind too flutters. It is its nature, and the beginning of peace is not to hate the mind for this, but to understand it. There was once a young monk who came to an old teacher in great distress, for he had entered the monastery hoping to find quiet and had found the opposite. In the silence of the meditation hall, with no work to occupy him, his mind had become louder than he had ever known. Thoughts poured through him without pause. He tried with all his strength to force his mind quiet, and each day he failed and grew more disheartened, until he came at last to the old teacher and said, "I think I am not made for this. My mind will not be still. I fight it and I fight it, and it only grows worse." The old teacher listened and did not seem troubled. He asked the young monk to describe this fighting, and the young monk told him how each time a thought arose he tried to push it away, to grip his attention and hold it still, and how the harder he pushed, the more thoughts seemed to come. The old teacher nodded slowly, and then said something the young monk did not expect. "Stop fighting," he said. The young monk did not understand. "But my mind is full of noise," he said. "If I stop fighting, surely it will only get worse." The old teacher smiled and asked, "Have you ever tried to smooth the surface of a pond with your hands? If the water is disturbed and you reach in and press the ripples flat, what happens?" The young monk thought and said, "More ripples. The water grows more disturbed, not less." "Yes," said the teacher. "Your fighting is your hands in the water. The noise is loud, but your struggle against it is what keeps stirring the surface. Take your hands out of the water, let it be, and it will settle on its own." Let us stay with the young monk a moment, sitting there with those strange and gentle words. Stop fighting. It went against everything he believed. He had thought that a quiet mind was a thing to be seized, wrestled into being by force of will. And here was the old teacher telling him the opposite, that his very effort was the disturbance, that his hands, reaching in to make the water calm, were the reason it would not settle. And this is the first great turning for the racing mind. So much of what keeps us awake is not the thinking itself, but our fighting against the thinking. The thoughts arise on their own, the way ripples arise on water, and if we let them be, they pass on their own too. But we do not let them be. We reach in. We push at them, argue with them, scold ourselves for having them, strain to force the mind quiet. And every one of those movements is a hand in the water, another disturbance, so that the mind we were trying to calm grows only more stirred by our efforts. You know this from the inside. The thought arrives, and then the sharper distress arrives right behind it. The distress of not wanting the thought, of needing the mind to be quiet, of failing to make it so. And that second thing, the struggle, is heavier than the thoughts themselves. The thoughts are only weather. The fighting is what exhausts us. So let us take our hands out of the water now, not as a task, but as a kind of rest. If the mind is busy tonight, let it be busy. You do not have to stop the thoughts or empty your mind. You have only to stop wrestling with it. Let the thoughts come, as many as they like, and let your attention rest softly on the one thing always here beneath the noise, the breath moving in and out on its own, low and slow, needing nothing from you. Feel the cool air coming in, the warm air going out, the gentle rise and fall, and let the thoughts do whatever they do in the background, the way you might let voices murmur in another room while you rest. Each time you notice you have been carried off by a thought, and you will be again and again, that is perfectly all right. That noticing is not a failure. It is the practice itself. Gently, without scolding, you simply return to the breath, and again, each return soft, each return without judgment, like coming home to a warm room 100 quiet times. There is nothing to achieve in this. You are not trying to reach a silent mind. You are only taking your hands out of the water again and again, and letting the pond of the mind settle in its own good time. Some nights it settles quickly. Some nights it stays busy for a long while, and that is all right too. You are resting either way. A busy mind, no longer fought, is already a lighter thing to carry than a busy mind at war with itself. There is a second picture that helps even more on the busiest nights, and it comes from a woman who had never sat quietly in her life. Always busy, always doing, she came at last, tired to her bones, to learn to sit still with an old nun who lived at the edge of the woods. On her very first evening of sitting, she was dismayed by what she found. She had imagined that stillness would bring quiet. Instead, the moment she grew still, her mind erupted into noise. Thoughts came in flocks, more than she had ever noticed in her life. She opened her eyes and said, "This is hopeless. My mind has gone mad. There are more thoughts now than ever." The old nun only smiled and led her outside, where the evening sky stretched wide and darkening above the trees. "Look up," she said. As they watched, birds crossed the sky, first a few, then a scattered flock, wheeling and calling and passing over. "Does the sky chase the birds?" the old nun asked, "or reach up to catch them, or grow angry that they cross it?" "Of course not," said the woman. "The sky simply lets them pass." "Yes," said the nun. "And when they have passed, is the sky marked by them, or torn, or changed at all?" "No," said the woman. "The sky is just the sky." "Your mind," said the old nun, "is the sky, and your thoughts are the birds. You have not gone mad. There were always this many birds. You simply never grew still enough to notice them crossing. Your only trouble is that you are trying to catch them, to hold the sky empty by force. But the sky does not do this. Be the sky. Let the thoughts cross. You do not have to catch a single one." Something in the woman eased that had been tight her whole life. She had spent all her years believing that a good mind was an empty one, that her thoughts were a flock to be driven off. And here was the old nun showing her that she was not the birds at all. She was the sky through which they passed, and the sky is never harmed by its birds, never stained, never made less by all their crossing. It has only to let them come and go and remain itself, wide and open and at peace beneath them. This is the deepest comfort for the racing mind, and it is worth carrying into the dark tonight. You are not your thoughts. You are the quiet awareness in which they appear and pass. The thoughts race across you like birds across the evening sky, and something in you watches them cross, something wide and still and untouched by all the traffic of the mind. So you no longer have to empty the sky. You have only to be it. Let the thought come and watch it cross, and let it go. Let the next one come and cross and go. Rest as the wide dark sky, and let the birds of the mind pass over, as many as they like, knowing that none of them can harm the sky, and none of them is you, and all of them are passing. The sky does not grow tired from its birds. It is only ever tired from trying to catch them. So let the catching go tonight, and rest as the wide night sky rests, holding its stars and its passing clouds without effort, without strain, without needing any of it to be other than it is. There is a great tenderness in this returning, and it is worth dwelling on, for it is the whole of the practice and the whole of the kindness. You will notice again and again tonight that you have drifted off after some thought, carried far downstream before you even realized you had left the breath. And each time, the old habit wants to scold. There I go again. I cannot even do this. But that scolding is only another hand in the water. The gentler way, the way that truly settles the mind, is to greet each drifting not with blame but with the softest welcome. "Ah, there you are. Come back." And to return to the breath as you would guide a small child by the hand back to a warm room, without a trace of impatience, without any sense of failure, simply, kindly, home. For the drifting is not the problem. The drifting is the practice. Every single time you notice you have wandered and gently return, you are not failing at stillness. You are doing the one thing that makes stillness grow. 100 driftings, 100 gentle returns, and each return lays the mind down a little softer than the last. So you cannot get this wrong tonight. There is no number of times you can wander that would count against you. However far you drift, however often, the practice is only ever the next soft return, each one an act of kindness toward your own tired mind. So let yourself drift and return, all through this quiet hour without keeping score, letting the breath be the warm room you keep coming home to, until the returning itself becomes a kind of rest, and the mind, met with such patience, begins on its own to stay. And as you rest as the sky and return to the breath, you may notice something quietly begin to change, not because you forced it, but because you stopped stirring. The thoughts, no longer chased, begin to come a little slower. The spaces between them widen. The whole restless surface of the mind, met at last with patience instead of war, begins of its own accord to smooth. You are not making this happen. You are only allowing it, the way you allow a held breath to release, the way you allow tight shoulders to drop. Let it be that easy tonight. Let the settling be something that happens to you gently, while you do nothing but breathe and return and rest. There is no effort required here, and no skill to master. You have only to keep coming back softly to the breath, and to let the coming back itself be gentle, until even the coming back grows quiet, and the breath simply breathes you, and you rest. And so, with the hands lifted at last from the water, and the breath moving slow and easy beneath the passing weather of the mind, there is nothing left to do but rest, and let the pond of the mind grow still in its own gentle time. Let us rest here for a moment. If your mind is racing tonight, let it race, just for now, without opposing it. Take your hands out of the water. Let the thoughts come and go as they please, and let your attention rest, soft and easy, on the slow movement of your breath. There is nothing to quiet by force tonight, and nothing to solve. When you are ready, we will go on together, gently. The old teacher told the young monk to think of the mind as a pond, and it is an image worth staying with, for it holds nearly everything we will explore in these hours. A pond that is stirred cannot show a clear reflection. A pond left still grows clear all by itself. So let us stay with that water a while longer, and learn the quiet, patient way that troubled water becomes clear. For there is a secret hidden in that pond, so simple that a child can understand it, and so deep that a person can spend a lifetime with it. Picture the water again, but this time stirred with a handful of fine silt, so that the whole of it is clouded, murky, moving. You cannot see through it. You cannot see the bottom. And now ask the gentle question this whole teaching turns upon. How do you make such water clear again? What must you do to settle the silt and calm the surface? The answer is the thing that surprises us every time, because it asks the one thing the anxious mind finds hardest. You do nothing. That is the secret. There is nothing to do. You cannot clear stirred water by reaching in and working at it. Every touch of your hand only swirls the silt again and clouds it further. You cannot hurry it clear. You can only set it down and leave it alone, and let it be still. And as it rests, untouched, the silt sinks slowly of its own weight, down and down, until the water grows clear all by itself and lies so still that it gives back a perfect reflection of the sky. There was a woman who each evening filled a clay jar from a wide, slow river. One evening she came in a hurry and waded straight into the shallows and plunged her jar down, and the mud of the riverbed rose up in a brown cloud, and the water she drew was murky and unfit to drink. Frustrated, she poured it out and plunged the jar again, harder, and again the mud swirled up. The more she stirred the shallows, the muddier they became, until the whole pool around her was dark, and she stood there in the failing light with an empty jar and a rising temper, no closer to clean water than when she began. An old man was mending a net on the bank, and he had watched it all. "You are trying very hard," he said gently, "to take clean water from a pool you keep stirring." "Then what would you have me do?" she asked. "The river is muddy." "Sit," he said, "just for a little while. Sit here beside me and let the water be." It went against everything in her to simply sit, but she was tired, and his voice was kind, and she had no better idea. So she set down her jar and sat, and as they sat in silence, the pool she had stirred began to change. The mud settled, the brown clouds sank little by little back toward the riverbed, and after a while, without anyone touching it, the water grew clear again, so clear that the first stars showed in its surface. "Now," said the old man softly, "now you may fill your jar." And she dipped it gently into the still, clear water and drew it up full and clean, and she understood. She had learned that the very thing she wanted, clear water, had been made impossible by her hurried efforts to get it, and had come to her freely the moment she stopped and sat and let the water be. Her stirring was the problem. Her stillness was the answer. And the water did all the clearing itself, needing from her only that she stop disturbing it. This is the mind, and this is the whole of what we are learning. The racing mind at night is the stirred pool, and our every effort to force it clear, to hurry it into silence, is another plunge of the jar. We cannot clear the mind by working at it. We can only let it be still and trust that the silt of the day will settle on its own, given a little time and a little stillness. The clarity you long for is not something you must manufacture. It is the natural state of the water underneath, always waiting, revealed the moment you stop stirring. The Buddha used this very image. A mind disturbed is like a bowl of water stirred and muddied, in which you cannot see your own face, and a mind grown calm is like clear, settled water, in which you can see to the very bottom. He did not say the muddy water was ruined. He said only, let it settle. The clear water was there all along beneath the mud, waiting. Notice the great gentleness in this, the permission it gives you tonight. You do not have to do anything to your mind to earn your rest. You do not have to fix it, empty it, or force it quiet. You have only to stop stirring and to wait, with a little patience and a little trust, while the silt of the day sinks slowly down. This is not a doing, it is an undoing. It is the deep relief of setting the jar down and simply sitting on the bank while the water clears itself. So imagine, if you like, that your mind is a pool of water stirred all through the day, and that you are simply setting it down now on a still surface and leaving it alone. You are not reaching in. You are not working at it. You are only letting it be and watching without impatience as the silt begins to settle. Feel your breath moving slowly, and with each breath out, imagine the finest silt drifting a little further down toward the bottom. There is no hurry. The water clears at its own pace, not yours, and that is perfectly all right. Some of the mud will sink quickly, some will drift down slowly through the night. You do not have to make it happen. You have only to stay still and let it. There is a smaller, homelier version of this that a grandmother once taught a restless child, and it is worth having by the bed. In a small house on a hillside there lived a grandmother and her young granddaughter, and the child was quick and easily troubled, and on the nights when something had upset her, she could not settle to sleep. Her small mind would race, and she would toss and turn and grow more distressed. The grandmother, wise in the way of grandmothers, did not tell the child to stop thinking, for she knew that telling a racing mind to stop only stirs it more. Instead, she kept, on a shelf by the bed, a small glass jar filled with clear water and a spoonful of fine white sand. On the troubled nights, the grandmother would take down the jar and give it a good shake, so that the sand swirled up and clouded the water entirely, a whirling storm of white. There, she would say gently, holding it up in the candlelight. This is your mind right now, little one. See how the sand is everywhere swirling so that we cannot see through the water at all. And the child, who knew the feeling well, would nod, for it looked exactly like how she felt. And then the grandmother would say, "Now watch." And she would set the jar down on the table, very still, and the two of them would sit and watch it together. "Do not shake it," she would say. "Do not stir it. Just watch." And as they watched in the quiet, the sand began to settle, grain by grain, sinking toward the bottom, and the water above grew clear until the storm of white had gathered into a soft, still layer at the bottom of the jar, and the water above it was clear enough to see the candle flame shining through. "See," the grandmother would whisper, "we did nothing at all. We did not reach in. We only set it down and let it be still, and the sand settled all by itself. And your mind is just the same. When it is all stirred up, you do not have to fix it. You have only to be still, like the jar, and breathe and wait, and let the sand of your thoughts settle down on its own. It always does, if you only let it." And the child, watching the clear water and the candle shining through it, would grow calm, her breathing slowing to match the stillness of the jar. And more often than not, she would be asleep before the grandmother had carried the jar back to its shelf. You might carry that little jar with you into sleep tonight. When the mind stirs up, thick with the swirling sand of the day, you do not have to reach in and clear it. You have only to become the jar set down upon the table, still, unmoving, at rest, and you have only to breathe slowly and wait, with the same patient trust the child learned, while the sand of your thoughts drift gently down, grain by grain, and the water of the mind grows clear all on its own. There is a patience in this you can trust. The sand does not settle because we will it to. It settles because that is the nature of sand in still water, its own quiet weight carrying it down, needing only time and stillness. And the thoughts of a troubled mind are just the same. So let each slow breath out be one more grain of sand drifting gently down. There is no counting to keep, no goal to reach. Only breath after breath, grain after grain, the slow and certain settling of a mind left still. And if the jar is stirred again by some new thought, as it will be, you do not begin again from failure. You simply let it settle once more, as many times as it takes, each time with the same patience, each time without hurry, trusting the sand to do what sand does, which is to sink, and the water to do what water does, which is to clear. And should you drift off before the water is fully cleared, that is well too. You do not have to stay awake to watch the settling finish. The sand will go on sinking whether you are watching or not, quietly through the night, and the mind will go on clearing all on its own while you sleep. There is nothing to supervise here, and nothing to get right. The clearing is not your work at all. It is the water's own quiet nature, and the night's, and it will happen on its own, with or without your watching. Your only part is to stop shaking the jar, and to breathe, and to wait with a soft and easy patience, while everything within you slowly settles towards stillness. Grain by grain the sand is sinking, breath by breath the water is clearing, and you have only to be still and to let it happen. And here is a thing worth trusting tonight, from your own experience. You have seen the water clear before. However stirred your mind is now, there have been quiet mornings, unhurried hours, when it was calm, when you felt at peace. That clarity is not gone. It has not been used up. It is only hidden for now beneath the stirred silt, present the whole time, waiting to be revealed. You are not trying to create a calm that does not exist. You are only waiting for a calm that is always there beneath the disturbance to show itself again. And notice too that when the water finally stills, the reflection appears all on its own. You do not have to paint the moon onto the surface of a calm lake. The moment the water is still, the moon is simply there, mirrored perfectly without any effort at all. So it is with the peace you are seeking. You do not have to manufacture it or work it into being. You have only to let the water still, and the peace appears on its own, reflected up from a depth that was never truly disturbed, clear and whole and effortless, the way the moon appears the instant the lake lies flat. So rest in that trust now. The clear water is there beneath tonight's silt, as it has always been. The peace is there beneath tonight's noise, waiting only for the stillness that reveals it. You need not make it. You need only let the settling happen and wait with quiet confidence for what was always there to show itself again. So let the last of the silt drift down now in its own time, and feel how the stillness itself is restful, how there is nothing to do here, nowhere to reach, nothing to solve, only the quiet sinking of the sand and the slow clearing of the water and the soft movement of your breath. And if some new stirring comes, some fresh thought dropped into the water, you need not despair of it. It too will settle, given only stillness and a little time. The pool has cleared 10,000 times before after every kind of storm, and it will clear again tonight, all on its own, the moment you let it be. You are not waiting for anything you must produce. You are only waiting for what is already true beneath the surface to show itself again, as it always has, as it always will, on every night you have ever slept. Trust that and rest. There is nothing to hurry here, nothing at all to force, and truly nothing to fear in the settling. The water itself has always known how to clear, and indeed, it is already beginning to clear now, quietly and surely, all on its very own, beneath your slow and easy breath. Whether you keep watch over it or simply let go and drift softly off, at last, into sleep. Let us rest here for a moment. If your mind has been stirred tonight, simply set it down, like a jar of clouded water placed on a still surface, and leave it be. Do not reach in. Do not work at it. Only let the silt settle in its own time, and let your breath move slowly, and trust that the clear water beneath was there all along. There is nothing to hurry tonight. When you are ready, we will go on together. The water clears when we stop stirring it, but it helps to understand what does the stirring, for the mind is not stirred by nothing. There are certain familiar movements of the heart that cloud the water again and again, and the old teachers knew them well and named them gently. So let us meet these stirrers of the water one at a time, beginning with the quiet, reaching hunger that so often keeps us awake. It is the simplest of them and the most constant, the reaching, wanting mind. Wanting is such an ordinary thing that we hardly notice it as a disturbance. But lie awake on a restless night and listen, and you will hear the mind reaching. It reaches toward the things it desires and does not have. It plans how to get them. It replays pleasures it hopes to enjoy again. It arranges a better tomorrow, shops and schemes, and longs in the dark. This reaching feels harmless, even pleasant at first, but it is a stirring of the water all the same, and it will keep the mind moving long into the night. The old teachers had an image for this. They said a mind full of wanting is like a bowl of clear water into which someone has stirred a bright dye, a splash of colour, so that the water is tinted all through and you can no longer see clearly to the bottom. The wanting colours everything. It tints the whole mind with its restless reaching. It is not that wanting is wicked. It is only that, like dye in water, it clouds the clarity we need for rest. In a town at a crossroads of trade, there lived a merchant who was good at his work and prospered at it, and who could not, for the life of him, sleep. Each night he lay down tired, and the moment his head touched the pillow, his mind began to reach. It counted the day's earnings and planned the next day's trades. It imagined the larger shop he might own, the finer house, the greater standing among his neighbours. His body lay still, but his mind was in the marketplace, always reaching for something just beyond its grasp. And the strange thing, the thing that troubled him, was that he had enough. He was not poor. His life by any measure was full, and yet the reaching did not stop. Each thing he gained only gave the mind a new thing to reach for, so that no amount of getting ever brought the reaching to rest. One evening, worn down, he confided his trouble to an old traveller lodging at the inn beside his shop, a man who seemed entirely at ease. The old traveller listened, then asked a curious question. When you lie down at night and your mind reaches for the next thing, does the reaching ever bring you the thing? The merchant thought. No, he admitted. The reaching brings me nothing. It only keeps me awake. Then, more slowly, as though realizing it for the first time, the things I have gained, I gained in the daylight, with my hands and my work. The reaching at night has never once gained me anything. The old traveller nodded. There is a hunger that is like a fire, he said. The more you feed it, the larger it grows. You have been feeding yours each night, hoping that if you reach far enough, you will finally arrive somewhere that lets you rest. But the reaching has no end. You cannot arrive at rest by wanting harder. You arrive at rest by setting the wanting down. Your work is for the daylight. The night asks nothing of you. You have enough for tonight. You have always had enough for tonight. Let the reaching rest, and you will find that you do too. You have enough for tonight. It was so simple, and it undid something in him that all his striving never could. He saw that his sleeplessness was not caused by any real lack, for he lacked nothing the night required. It was caused by the reaching itself, the mind's restless colouring of the water with want after want, none of which the night could ever satisfy, and none of which the night had ever asked him to satisfy. And this is the first of the stirrers of the water. It comes to nearly all of us in the dark, in one form or another. Perhaps not the merchant's hunger for gain, but some other reaching, a longing for how things might be, a rehearsal of pleasures wished for, a quiet dissatisfaction that reaches always towards some elsewhere that is not this bed, this breath, this ordinary and sufficient night, and like dye in water, it tints the whole mind with restlessness and will not let it clear. The gentle teaching here is not that wanting is wrong, or that you must have no desires. It is far kinder. The night is not the place for reaching. Whatever you must pursue and build and gain belongs to the daylight, to your hands and your waking hours. In the night, you have enough. You have always had enough for the night. There is nothing you must reach for now, nothing you must arrange or secure before you are permitted to rest. So let us set the reaching down now, gently. Whatever your mind has been reaching for tonight, something wished for, some better tomorrow, let it be, just for now. Say to the reaching mind, softly, as the merchant learned to, I have enough for tonight. There is nothing I must reach for now. And feel how much of the mind's restlessness was only this reaching, and how, when the reaching is allowed to rest, a quietness begins to spread, like clear water where the color has finally settled out. Let your hands lie open on the covers, no longer grasping. Let the wanting soften. Let the breath move slowly, asking for nothing, reaching for nothing, simply arriving and leaving on its own. There is nowhere else you need to be tonight, and nothing else you need to have. This breath is enough. This quiet is enough. This ordinary night, exactly as it is enough. There is a quiet wisdom about this that once passed between two neighbors, and it is worth overhearing. On the edge of a town, there lived, side by side, two men whose lives could not have looked more different. One was a gardener who owned only a small plot of land and a modest house, and lived simply on what his garden gave him. The other was a wealthy trader who owned warehouses and ships and more rooms than he could use, and was forever adding to his fortune. And yet, of the two, it was the poor gardener who slept deeply every night, and the rich trader who lay awake till dawn. The trader could not understand it. One evening, unable to bear his sleeplessness any longer, he found the gardener sitting peacefully on his step in the dusk, and asked him plainly, "What is your secret? I have 100 times what you have, and I cannot sleep a wink, while you have so little and sleep so soundly." The gardener thought for a while, in the unhurried way of a man who has never been in a rush. Then he said, "I think perhaps it is that each evening when the sun goes down, I give the day's wanting back to the earth. All through the day I work, and I want things, and I reach for them, as any man does. But when the light fails and the work is done, I set the wanting down. I look at what I have, this house, this garden, this bowl of food, this quiet evening, and I say to myself, this is enough for tonight. And it is. The night asks nothing more of me than to rest in it. But I never stop wanting," said the trader. "Even in my bed, my mind is reaching for the next ship, the next deal." The gardener nodded kindly. "That is why you cannot sleep," he said. "It is not that you have too little. You have far too much. You carry the whole marketplace into your bed with you, and no bed is big enough to hold a marketplace. Leave it at the door, friend. It will still be there in the morning. The night has no use for it, and neither for these few hours do you. The gardener's practice is one you can borrow tonight. Each evening, as the light fails, you might give the day's wanting back to the earth. Look, in your mind, at what you already have, this bed, this warmth, this breath, this quiet hour, and say to yourself gently, this is enough for tonight. Whatever you are reaching for, you might leave it at the door and trust that it will still be there in the morning when you have the daylight and the strength to meet it. For when we set the wanting down, we are able, often for the first time all day, to actually see what we already have. The reaching mind is always looking past the present towards some better elsewhere, and so it never notices the quiet fullness of what is already here. So take a moment now simply to notice what is already here and already enough. Here is a bed holding you, asking nothing. Here is warmth wrapped around you in the dark. Here is a breath arriving on its own, and another after it, faithful, unearned, freely given. Here is a body that has carried you through the whole long day and is now, at last, allowed to rest. None of this had to be reached for. None of it required your striving. It is simply here given enough. And when you rest in what is already enough, the whole machinery of wanting grows quiet, for it has nothing left to do. There is nowhere better to get to than this. There is nothing more to have than this breath, this warmth, this quiet, this sufficient night. And notice how different this is from the reaching that kept the trader awake. He lay in the middle of everything he did not yet have. You may lie, instead, in the quiet company of everything you already do. It is the same night, the same darkness, the same bed. Only the direction of the mind is changed, not straining outward toward what is missing, but resting gently in what is present. And that small turning from reaching to resting, from lack to enough, is the whole of the difference between a sleepless night and a peaceful one. So let the marketplace stay at the door tonight and keep only what the night needs, which is nothing at all but this breath and this warmth and this quiet, sufficient dark. You have done enough today. You have gathered enough, arranged enough, reached enough. And you are allowed now to set the whole reaching enterprise down and rest as one whose work is finished, even if it is not finished, for the night is not the place where things are finished. The night is the place where the worker, at last, is allowed to rest. And there is a deep rest that comes when we finally believe, even for one night, that we have enough. So much of our sleeplessness is the body lying down while the mind stays on duty, still working, still reaching, still sure that there is something yet to be secured before we are allowed to stop. But what if, just for tonight, there were nothing left to secure? What if you had already done enough, already gathered enough, and the night asked nothing further of you at all? Feel, for a moment, what that would be like, to be entirely off duty, to have nothing to finish, to be allowed, fully and without guilt, to simply stop. You may have that tonight. Whatever remains undone will still be there in the morning, and you will meet it then with rested hands. But for now, in this dark, in this bed, you are off duty. There is nothing to reach for, nothing to complete, nothing to guard. You have enough. You are enough. And you are allowed now to set the whole reaching enterprise down and rest as one who has finished their work, even if it is not finished. So let the reaching hands grow still and open. Let the on-duty mind clock off for the night. Feel how much of you was braced and working, and let it stand down now. Let it rest. Let it be off duty until the morning. There is nothing to reach for in the dark. You have enough for tonight, and more than enough, and you are allowed fully and freely to rest. And when the reaching finally rests, notice how the body itself grows heavier, softer, more willing to sink into the bed, as though it had only been waiting for the mind to stop straining before it could truly let go. The reaching held a subtle tension in you, a leaning forward, and as it releases, that tension drains away, out of the shoulders, out of the hands, out of the held breath, and the whole body settles more deeply into rest. There is nowhere to lean tonight, and nothing to lean toward. Only this breath, and this warmth, and the deep, sufficient quiet of a night that asks nothing of you at all. This is the whole of the turning, from the restless mind that reaches out into the dark for what is not there, to the quiet and easy heart that rests, content at last, in the simple and sufficient fullness of what already is. Let yourself make that small turning now, and rest in what is already enough. Here is the bed, holding you and asking nothing. Here is the warmth around you. Here is the breath, arriving freely and unearned. Here is the quiet, sufficient dark of the night itself. Nothing is missing from this moment. Let the wanting rest and rest yourself in the deep and simple fullness of what is already, quietly and completely enough. Let us rest here for a moment. If your mind has been reaching tonight, coloring the water with wanting, let the reaching rest, and remember that you have enough for tonight. There is nothing to pursue in the dark, nothing to arrange, nothing to gain before you sleep. Let the bright dye of wanting settle slowly out of the water. Let your hands lie open. Let the breath ask for nothing. When you are ready, we will go on together. The reaching mind colours the water with wanting, but there is a stirrer that is wanting's very opposite, and in some ways its twin. For if desire is the mind reaching toward what it wants, there is also the mind pushing hard against what it does not want, the heat of resentment that can keep us awake as surely as any longing. And so we turn from the reaching to the burning and to the quiet cooling of a heart that has been holding a grievance in the dark. For there is a heat that stirs the water as surely as any wanting, and in some ways it is wanting's very opposite. If desire is the mind reaching toward what it wants, this is the mind pushing hard against what it does not want, the heat of anger, of resentment, of ill will held in the dark, and it can keep us awake as surely as any longing and burn far hotter. You lie down, and instead of rest, the mind serves up the argument again, the unfair words, the person who hurt you, and you rehearse what you should have said, what you will say, how they were wrong and you were right. The body grows tense, a heat rises in the chest, and the more you turn it over, the hotter it burns, until you are lying in the dark, not tired but inflamed, holding a fire that gives no light and only keeps you from sleep. The Buddha had an image for this, and it is exact. He said that a mind full of ill will is like a pot of water set over a blazing fire, boiling and churning and throwing up steam. If you leaned over such water hoping to see your face reflected, you would see nothing, only the roiling and the steam. The heat makes the water wild, and a mind boiling with resentment is just so. Too hot and churning to show anything clearly, too disturbed to find any rest. It is not that the anger is wicked. It is that, like water on a fire, it cannot be still while it burns. There was a man who had been wronged by his neighbor over the boundary of a field. It was not a large matter, a few feet of earth, a moved stone, but the man felt the injustice keenly, and it lodged in him like a splinter. By day he could set it aside, busy with his work. But at night, when he lay down, the grievance rose up hot within him. He replayed the argument at the boundary stone 100 times. He composed furious speeches. He imagined the neighbor humbled, apologizing. He lay rigid in the dark, his heart pounding, his mind boiling, and night after night he did not sleep, while his neighbor, he was sure, slept soundly. After many such nights, hollow-eyed and exhausted, he went to an old woman in the village who was known for her wisdom and told her everything, expecting her to agree that he had been terribly wronged. She listened to all of it. Then she asked a single question. "Tell me," she said, "all these nights you have lain awake, boiling with this, has your neighbor lost even 1 hour of sleep?" The man was silent. "No," he admitted. "He sleeps well enough. He does not even think of it. The old woman nodded gently. So she said, he wronged you once, over a few feet of earth. And since then, you have wronged yourself, night after night, of all your rest. Who is truly harming you now, the neighbor who has forgotten, or you who cannot stop remembering? There is an old image, she went on. Holding on to anger is like taking up a burning coal in your bare hand, meaning to throw it at the one who wronged you. But it is your own hand that is burned, long before the coal ever reaches them, and often it never reaches them at all. You have been holding a coal every night and burning only yourself, while the one you meant to throw it at sleeps peacefully, untouched. Set the coal down, not for his sake, for your own. The man had never seen it this way. He had believed that his anger was a kind of justice, that to hold it was to honor the wrong done to him, that to release it would be to let his neighbor win. But the old woman had shown him the truth, that the coal burned only the hand that held it, that his sleepless boiling harmed no one but himself. Setting the coal down was not defeat. It was mercy, the mercy of at last letting his own scorched hand rest. For the fire burns you, not them. That is worth holding gently tonight. Perhaps not a quarrel over a field, but some other heat. A harsh word you cannot forgive. A person who hurt you and does not know or care that you lie awake over it. An old resentment that flares up the moment the lights go out. And to lie awake boiling harms no one but yourself, robs no one of rest but you. So to set the anger down, just for the night, is not to forgive them a debt or to let them win. It is to take your own burned hand out of the fire at last and let it cool. There is an old story told in the Zen tradition that shows this in another way. Two monks were walking together on a journey, an older monk and a younger one, and they came to a river crossing where the water ran high. At the edge stood a young woman, finely dressed, unable to cross without ruining her clothes and afraid of the current. Now these monks had taken a vow not to touch a woman, but the older monk, without a word, simply lifted her in his arms, carried her across the river, set her gently down on the far bank, and walked on. The two monks continued in silence, but the younger monk was troubled, and grew more troubled as the miles passed, for the older monk had broken their vow. He stewed on it for hours, his mind boiling, until at last he burst out, "How could you carry that woman across the river? We are forbidden to touch a woman." The old monk looked at him and said quietly, "I set the woman down at the river hours ago. Why are you still carrying her? Why are you still carrying her?" The younger monk had carried her for hours in his churning heart, long after the river. The burden was not the woman. The burden was the carrying. You know this carrying. You have set something down in the world, an argument, a slight, a wrong, and then carried it for hours in the mind, long after the moment itself was over. And it is worth asking yourself gently, in the old monk's words, why are you still carrying it? The moment is over. The person is gone. The wrong happened once and is finished. Everything since has been the carrying, the boiling, the coal, held in your own hand, and you may tonight set it down at the river and walk on free. So let us let the fire die down now, softly. Whatever heat you have been holding, whatever anger or grievance has been boiling in you, let it cool, just for now. Not by force, for force is only more fire. Only by setting it down. Unclench the hand that has held the coal. Let the jaw soften, the chest cool, the heat drain slowly out of you into the dark. Imagine the boiling pot lifted at last from the fire, the flames beneath it dying to embers, to ash, to nothing. and the water within growing quieter and cooler, the churning slowing, until it lies flat and cool and still, cool enough now to hold a quiet moon. There is a coolness in you beneath all the heat that has been waiting the whole time, the way cool water waits beneath the boiling. You have only to take the fire away, and it returns on its own. So let the fire go out tonight. Let the last of the heat drain from you into the dark and be gone, and rest in the cool stillness that was always there beneath it, the quiet water of a heart no longer burning. It is worth seeing clearly what the heat of anger actually costs us, for the mind will defend its burning if we let it, insisting that to stop being angry would be to accept the wrong. But look at what the burning takes and what it gives. It takes your rest, your peace, your quiet hours, the softness of your own heart, and it gives you nothing at all in return, for the one you are angry at feels none of it. Your fire does not reach them, does not touch them, does not even trouble their sleep. All the heat stays in you. You are the pot on the fire, and the one scorched by it all at once, while the object of your anger walks free and untouched through your very own night. And when you see this plainly, something begins to loosen, not out of forgiveness demanded, not out of pretending the wrong was right, but simply out of mercy toward yourself. For why should you go on burning for a wrong already done, already finished, that no amount of your midnight boiling can undo? The heat changes nothing that happened. It only ruins the hours that remain. And there is a further easing available to you tonight, gentler even than setting the coal down. It is the quiet turning of the heart that happens when we begin, even a little, to wish the other person well, not because they earned it, not because the wrong did not matter, but because, strange as it sounds, wishing them peace is one of the surest ways to find our own. For as long as we wish them harm, we must keep the fire burning to send the harm, and the fire burns us. But the moment we soften, even reluctantly, toward wishing them peace, the fire has no more fuel, and it begins to die, and the coolness we have been longing for spreads through us at last. You might try it softly tonight, not as a duty, but as a mercy to yourself. You might say quietly of the one who wronged you, may they too find peace, may they too rest. It costs you nothing, and it gives the fire nothing more to burn. For anger binds us to the one we are angry at. As long as we burn for them, we carry them with us everywhere, into every quiet hour, into the very bed where we long to rest. And forgiveness, which we so often mistake for a gift to them, is truly the setting free of ourselves, the turning them out of the room at last, the reclaiming of our own peace and our own night. You do not forgive because they deserve it. You forgive because you deserve to stop carrying them. So let us cool the water now, slowly and completely, from the top of the head to the soles of the feet. Feel wherever the anger has lodged in the body, for it always lodges somewhere. The tight jaw, the clenched hands, the heat in the chest, the knot in the belly. And to each of those places, bring a slow, cool breath, the way you would pour cool water over a burn. Let the jaw unclench and cool. Let the hands open and cool. Let the chest, which has held the heat, grow cool and soft and easy. Let the belly loosen, and imagine the boiling pot lifted fully off the fire now, the flames beneath it dying to embers, to ash, to nothing. The water within growing quieter and cooler, the churning slowing to a gentle sway, and then to stillness, until it lies flat and cool and clear. a dark pool at rest in the night air. There is a coolness in you beneath all the heat that has been waiting the whole time. So let the fire go out tonight, all of it, and let the one you are burning for go with it, out of the room, out of the night, out of your tired heart, and rest at last in a heart with no one left to burn for, no coal left to hold, no fire left to tend, only the cool, quiet water of a heart at peace, dark and smooth and still beneath the moon. It helps too to remember that a fire needs fuel to keep burning, and that the fuel of anger is the retelling. Each time we go over the wrong again in our minds, rehearse the argument, remind ourselves of the injustice, we throw another log on the fire and it flares up hot once more. The anger does not sustain itself. We sustain it, feeding it story after story through the long night. And this means quietly that we hold the power to let it die, not by fighting the fire, which only fans it, but simply by stopping the feeding, by declining just for tonight, to tell the story one more time. So when the mind reaches for the grievance again, ready to retell it, you might gently decline. Not now, you might say. I will not feed this tonight. And you might turn instead toward the breath, toward the cool dark, toward anything but the retelling. And the fire, given no more fuel, will begin to die. It cannot burn on nothing. The flames will sink to embers, and the embers to ash, and the heat will drain slowly out of you, simply because you stop feeding it, simply because you let one night pass without adding another log. Feel that cooling now as the untended fire dies down. There is nothing to tend tonight, no story you must tell, no wrong you must rehearse, no case you must build in the dark. Let the fire go out for lack of fuel, and feel the cool, clean dark that spreads through you as the burning finally stops. There is no one to throw a coal at tonight, and nothing you must carry across this night. You may set it all down at the river, and let your burned hand rest, and cool, and be at peace. Let us rest here for a moment. If some heat has been boiling in you tonight, some anger or old grievance, let it cool now and set it down at the river. Not for anyone's sake, but your own tired hearts. Let the fire die down. Let the water grow cool and still. Let your hand, which has held the coal so long, open and rest and cool in the dark. There is nothing to carry tonight. When you are ready, we will go on together. The heat of anger boils the water, but there is a stirrer of the mind that is not hot at all, but heavy, that does not burn, but weighs us down, sinking the heart into a kind of dull, tangled heaviness. And so we turn from the burning to the weight, and to the gentle lightening of a heart that has been carrying too much. It is a heaviness many of us know, though it is quieter than anger and harder to name. It is not the racing of the mind, but its sinking. A dullness, a fog, a weighed down feeling in the heart, as though something heavy has settled over you and pressed the brightness out of the day. On such nights, you are not kept awake by wild thoughts, so much as by a low, grey heaviness that will not lift. A tiredness that is more than tiredness. A mind that feels tangled and sunk and dim. The Buddha had an image for this too, and it is a gentle one. He said that a mind grown heavy and dull is like a pool of water overgrown with algae and floating weeds, its whole surface covered over with green, so that no light reaches the depths and no reflection can be seen. The water itself is fine, but it is choked, overgrown, tangled at the surface, and so it lies dim and closed, and a heart weighed down by heaviness is just so, not ruined, only overgrown, tangled with too much, closed over so that its own light cannot shine through. There was a traveller crossing a wide moor on a grey afternoon, and as she walked, a heavy fog rolled in, thick and low and cold, until she could see only a few steps ahead. The world went dim and shapeless, and with the fog, a heaviness came over her heart. The path grew hard to find. Every step felt like an effort. She began to feel that she would never reach the far side, that the moor went on forever, and she wanted only to sit down in the wet heather and give up. But she remembered something an old shepherd had once told her about crossing the moor in fog. "Do not try to see the whole way," he had said. "You cannot. The fog will not allow it. Only find the next step, the one just ahead, and take it. Then find the next. The fog moves with you, but so does the small circle of ground you can see, and that small circle is always enough to take one more step. Do not fight the fog. Only tend to the next step, gently, and trust the path to carry you." So the traveller stopped straining to see the whole moor. She lowered her eyes to the small circle of ground the fog allowed her, and she found the next step and took it, and then the next. She did not try to lift the fog, for she could not. She only tended softly to the one step in front of her again and again, and let the heaviness be heavy without adding the further weight of fighting it. And slowly, step by gentle step, without her ever seeing it happen, the moor passed beneath her, and the far side came, and the fog, in its own time, began to thin. For heaviness is not lifted by force. A pool choked with weeds is not cleared by thrashing at it. The thrashing only tangles the weeds worse and stirs the mud. Heaviness is met instead with gentleness, with a small and tender kindness of asking little of yourself and tending only to the next quiet breath. You do not have to lift the whole fog tonight. You do not have to see the far side, or fix the heaviness, or force yourself towards some brightness. You have only to be gentle with a heavy heart, and to tend softly to the next breath, and to trust that the fog, met without fighting, will thin in its own time. And it helps to understand what heaviness truly is, for we so often mistake it. There was a farmer who grew troubled in the deep of winter, for his fields, which in summer had been green and golden, now lay dark and bare and frozen, heavy under a grey sky, seeming for all the world to be dead. And a young man new to the land looked out at the barren fields and said in dismay, "The land is dead. Nothing will ever grow here again." The old farmer smiled and shook his head. "No," he said, "the land is not dead. It is resting. This is what resting looks like from the outside. The heaviness you see is not death. It is the deep, quiet, gathering rest the earth must have every year if it is ever to bloom again. Beneath that frozen ground, in the dark, the seeds are lying still, waiting, doing the slow, invisible work of rest that no green summer could ever do. The heaviness is not the enemy of the bloom. It is where the bloom is quietly made. Let the field rest. The spring will come in its own time, and it will come out of exactly this heaviness, and not in spite of it. We tend to treat a heavy heart as a failure, a wrongness to be forced away. But what if the heaviness, sometimes, is not the enemy of rest, but the very shape of it? What if the heart, like the winter field, sometimes needs to lie dark and still and gathered, drawing in, resting deeply, doing the slow, invisible work that only stillness can do? Then the heaviness is not something to fight, but something to allow, and even to honor. If your heart is heavy tonight, You do not have to force it to be light. You do not have to bloom tonight. You are allowed to lie fallow, to be dark and still and gathered like the winter field, to rest deeply in the heaviness rather than struggling out of it. The struggling is the only real harm. The heaviness itself, allowed and honored, is a kind of deep rest, the rest the earth takes every winter, the rest that makes all the coming blooms. So let us be very gentle now with the heavy heart, and let the heaviness become a resting rather than a burden. Feel the weight of your body sinking into the bed, and instead of resisting that heaviness, let yourself give into it completely, the way the winter field gives itself over to its long rest. Let yourself be heavy. Let yourself sink. There is nothing you must lift tonight, nothing you must brighten or fix or force into bloom. You may lie fallow, dark and still and gathered, resting as deeply as the winter earth rests, held by the ground beneath you, asking nothing of yourself but this deep and quiet rest. And in the dark, unseen, unforced, the slow, gentle work of rest is already being done in you, as it is done in the resting field, quietly making a spring you do not yet have to see. Light one small lamp of kindness in the window of your heart, just enough to warm this one moment, and let the rest of the fog be, tending only to the next slow breath. There is a kind of rest that we have forgotten how to give ourselves, and the heavy heart is often only asking for it. It is the rest of doing nothing, of being carried, of letting go entirely. We have learned, most of us, to be always doing, always pushing ourselves toward the next thing, so that even our heaviness we treat as a task, a problem to be solved. But the heavy heart does not need to be fixed. It needs to be allowed to rest, fully, without shame, the way a tired child is allowed to be carried. Think of a small child who has played until they are utterly spent, and who is lifted, heavy and drowsy, into the arms of someone who loves them and carried home. The child does nothing. The child does not help, does not steer, does not worry about the way. The child simply goes heavy and soft and trusting in the arms that hold them, all their weight given over, wholly at rest. That deep, heavy giving over is not weakness. It is the sweetest rest there is, the rest of being carried, of letting something larger than yourself hold your whole weight while you do nothing at all. You may rest that way tonight. You are allowed to do nothing. You are allowed to be carried. The bed beneath you is holding your whole weight already, and the night is wrapped around you, and the slow turning of the world is carrying you gently toward morning without your help. You do not have to steer. You do not have to solve the heaviness or lift it or earn your rest by fixing yourself first. And this is the permission the heavy heart most needs to hear. You do not have to earn your rest tonight. We carry, most of us, a quiet belief that rest must be deserved, that we may only stop once we have done enough, become enough, and so even our nights become another place to strive. But rest is not a wage paid for a day well spent. It is not earned at all. It is simply given freely to anyone willing to receive it, the way the night is given, the way the dark comes down over everyone alike, the worthy and the weary and the unfinished, and covers them all with the same gentle rest. So you do not have to have earned this night. You do not have to have done enough, or been enough, or lifted the heaviness first. You may rest exactly as you are, weighed down, unfinished, imperfect, and receive the night's rest as the free gift it is. So let yourself be carried now. Let every part of you grow heavy and soft and trusting. Let the weight of your head be fully held. Let your shoulders, your arms, your hands go heavy. Let your whole body sink, given over, into the arms of the bed and the night. There is nothing you must do tonight. There is nothing you must fix or lift or brighten. You have only to let yourself be heavy and be held and be carried like a spent and drowsy child into the deep and simple rest that is waiting for you. The rest that asks nothing of you at all, but that you finally, fully let go. And if the heaviness returns tomorrow or the night after, you need not despair of it. Winter does not shame the field for coming round again. It is simply a season, and it passes, and it always passes into spring. Meet your own heavy seasons the same way, gently, without alarm, trusting that this too is only a resting time, and that it carries within it, unseen, the quiet making of everything that will bloom in you when the light returns. And there is a great gentleness in letting yourself do nothing tonight, for doing nothing is exactly what the tired heart has been longing for beneath all its striving. So often we lie down and immediately set the mind to work, reviewing, planning, fixing, as though rest were one more task to be accomplished correctly. But rest is not a task. It is the laying down of all tasks. It is the one place in the whole of your life where there is truly nothing to accomplish, nothing to get right, nowhere to get to. And so you might, tonight, give yourself full permission to accomplish nothing at all, to be entirely unproductive, to let the whole striving machinery of the day fall silent and still. There is a deep sweetness in this, the sweetness of being, for a few hours, wholly off duty, wholly at rest, wholly excused from every demand, even the demand to rest well. You need not even rest correctly. You need only lie here, heavy and held, and let the night do with you what it will. So let the last of the day's weight sink down through you now and into the bed, and into the earth beneath the bed, and be carried. Let the heaviness in your chest soften and spread and grow warm. Let the tiredness behind your eyes be welcomed rather than fought. There is nowhere you must go and nothing you must become before you are allowed to rest. You are allowed now exactly as you are, heavy and unfinished and tired, to sink into the deep and gathering dark, like a seed into the warm winter earth, like a tired child into loving and steady arms, and to rest there doing nothing at all, needing nothing at all, being carried gently through the long night toward a morning that will come in its own time, whether you watch for it or not. So receive the rest now, freely and gladly, as the pure gift it is, a gift you need not have earned and cannot fail to deserve. Let the heavy heart be heavy and rest anyway. Let the unfinished things simply be unfinished and rest anyway. Let yourself sink down slowly and completely into the deep and given dark, asking nothing at all of yourself, having earned nothing, deserving nothing, and yet being offered everything, the whole soft weight of the night's rest, freely and completely, simply because you are here and tired and willing at last to receive it. There is nothing tonight you must fix or finish or become. Only let yourself be heavy and be held and be carried softly into the deep and gathering rest that the winter earth knows and the tired child knows, and your own weary heart has known all along, beneath its striving, how to receive. There is nowhere else to be tonight, and nothing else at all to do. You have only to let go, softly and completely now, and be carried gently down into a deep and quiet sleep. Let us rest here for a moment. If your heart has been heavy tonight, weighed down and dim, set the weight gently down, and stop straining to lift the fog, and be tender with yourself inside the heaviness. Tend only to the next soft breath. Let the heaviness be, at last, not a weight to escape, but a rest to sink into, deep and dark and gently gathering, like a field in winter under a quiet grey sky, resting toward a spring that will surely come. When you are ready, we will go on together. The heavy mind sinks under too much weight, but there is a stirrer of the water that is neither hot nor heavy, but restless, a wind that will not let the surface lie flat, and it is perhaps the truest heart of the racing mind of all. And so we turn from the weight to the wind, and to the falling of that wind into a great and glassy stillness. For here is the very heart of the racing mind, the stirrer of the water that gives this whole restless experience its name. It is restlessness itself, and its close companion, worry, the mind that will not settle, the heart that flutters and darts, the thoughts that will not lie still but keep rippling, one after another, so that the moment you think the water might grow calm, another gust of worry crosses it and stirs it up again. The Buddha had an image for this, and it is perhaps the most fitting of them all. He said that a restless, worried mind is like a pool of water stirred by the wind, its surface rippling and wrinkling, never flat, never still. If you leaned over such water, hoping to see your reflection, you would find only a broken, trembling image shattered into 100 moving pieces by the wind. The water is not muddy, not hot, not choked. It is only wind-troubled, rippling, unable to lie flat. And the mind fluttering with worry is just so, not stained, not burning, only stirred endlessly by the winds of anxious thought, so that it can never come to rest. There is a line in the Dhammapada, one of the oldest collections of the Buddha's teachings, that speaks of the restless mind. It says that as a fletcher, an arrow maker, straightens the shaft of an arrow, so the wise one steadies the restless, quivering mind. And there is a story often told alongside it. A young man, restless by nature, his thoughts forever darting, came to learn from an old fletcher who was famous not only for his arrows, but for his calm. "My mind," he confessed, "is like a monkey, leaping from branch to branch, never still for a moment. How do you sit so quietly at your work?" The old fletcher held up an arrow shaft, freshly cut, crooked and rough. "When this shaft comes to me," he said, "it is bent and unruly, like your mind. I cannot straighten it by force. If I bend it hard the other way, it splinters. So I warm it gently over the coals, and I hold it, patiently, with a steady hand, and little by little, without haste, I let it come straight. It cannot be hurried. It can only be held gently and steadily until it settles into trueness on its own." The young man watched and saw that the old fletcher did not fight the crooked shaft, did not grow frustrated, did not try to force it straight all at once. He warmed it and held it steady and waited with an endless patience, and the shaft came true in its own time. "This," said the old fletcher, "is also how you steady a restless mind, not by force, not by gripping it hard, but by warmth and patience and a steady, gentle holding, returning to stillness again and again, without haste, until the mind, like the arrow, settles into trueness on its own. For you cannot force a fluttering mind to be still, any more than you can grab the wind and hold it flat. The more you fight the restlessness, the more it flutters. But you can hold the mind gently and return it, patiently, to the breath. Each time it darts away, without frustration, without scolding, as many times as it takes. And this gentle, patient returning is not a failure repeated. It is the very work itself, the warming of the shaft, the steady hand, the slow coming true of a restless mind held with patience instead of force. And for the worried mind especially, there is another story. On a wide lake there was a ferryman who carried travelers from shore to shore, and he had learned, over many years, a great secret about wind and water. When a strong wind rose and stirred the lake into rolling, choppy waves, the young ferrymen would fight it, rowing hard against the chop, straining and struggling, and arriving exhausted, if they arrived at all. But the old ferryman did something different. When the wind was wild, he did not fight it. He drew his boat into the shelter of a cove, and he waited. He let the wind blow. He did not rail against it or try to row through the worst of it. He simply sheltered and waited, patiently, and watched. And he knew what the young ones did not, that the wind always falls. No wind blows forever. In time, always it drops. And when it dropped, the wild, choppy water would begin to settle, the waves growing smaller, the surface smoothing, until at last the lake lay flat and calm as glass. So still it held the whole sky and the evening star. And then, in the calm, the old ferryman would row out easily across the mirror-still water and carry his travellers home. He did not conquer the wind. He simply outlasted it. Worry is the wind, and it too always falls, if we do not feed it. The worried mind believes that it must keep working at the trouble, must keep the wind blowing, or something terrible will slip past. But the wind of worry gives us nothing. It only stirs the water so we cannot see, and it will fall on its own if we stop feeding it, if we shelter in patience and simply wait, breathing slowly, not fighting the wind and not fanning it, until it drops and the water of the mind grows flat and still and clear and holds, at last, the quiet moon. So let us shelter now and let the wind of worry fall. Whatever anxious thoughts have been rippling the water tonight, you do not have to row against them, and you do not have to fan them. Draw into the shelter of your own slow breath and wait, the way the old ferryman waited, letting the wind blow itself out. It will fall. It always falls. Let each slow breath be like an anchor lowered quietly into deep, still water, far below the wind-troubled surface, where nothing stirs, where all is quiet and dark and calm. The surface of the mind may still ripple a while. That is all right. But you are anchored now in the deep, held by the slow breath, no longer tossed about. And on the surface, far above you now, the wind has all but died. The last ripples are spreading out and smoothing into glass. The lake lies still and dark and perfect, a flawless mirror for the night. See the stars come out upon it, one by one, unbroken now, and the moon, rising quiet and full and silver, laid upon the mirror of the lake so perfectly that the water and the sky become one seamless field of stillness. This is the mind at rest. This is what lies beneath all the wind, waiting the whole time. A stillness deep enough to hold the moon. It helps to understand what worry actually is, for the worried mind believes it is doing something useful and will not stop until it sees that it is not. Worry feels like problem solving. It feels like preparation, like vigilance, like the responsible thing to do. But watch it closely and you will see that worry never actually solves anything. It circles. It returns to the same fear again and again without ever resolving it, the way the wind returns to the same water again and again without ever getting anywhere. Real problem solving happens in the daylight, with a clear mind and steady hands, and it comes to an end. Worry has no end. It is not the solving of a problem. It is only the stirring of the water round and round, producing nothing but ripples. And here is the freeing thing to see. You can set the worry down without setting down your care. You will still love what you love. You will still tend to what needs tending in the morning, in the light. Letting the wind of worry fall does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop stirring the water uselessly in the dark over things you cannot touch until morning. The night is not the place where anything is solved. The night is the place where you gather the rest and the strength to meet the day, and worry robs you of exactly that. Think too of a child spinning top, set whirling on a table. While it spins fast, it wobbles and races, and you cannot stop it by grabbing at it. Grab it, and it flies from your hand. You can only let it spin and watch, and it slows on its own, a little at a time, its wild spinning gradually gentling, until it wobbles slower and slower, and at last comes to rest, still on its side. The restless mind is such a top, set spinning by the day. You cannot stop it by grabbing at it. You can only let it spin and watch it patiently, and it will slow on its own, its racing gentling by degrees, until it comes in its own time quietly to rest. And now let the falling of the wind become the coming of sleep itself, for they are, in the end, the same gentle thing. As the surface of the mind grows still, you may feel the first soft heaviness of drowsiness begin to move through you, a warmth in the limbs, a slowing of the thoughts, a sweet reluctance in the body to move at all. Do not reach for it, and do not chase it, for sleep, like the still water, comes only when we stop pursuing it. Simply let it rise, the way the stillness rises when the wind falls, on its own, welling up from below to carry you gently under. Let the thoughts, whatever few remain, grow slow and far apart, like the last ripples on the settling lake, each one smaller than the last, each one followed by a longer stretch of stillness. There is no need to follow them now, and no need to think them through. You may let each one drift past unheld, and sink a little deeper into the warm dark with every slow breath, until the thoughts thin to almost nothing, and there is only the slow breath, and the warm heaviness, and the deep quiet water holding the moon. And should you feel yourself beginning to drift down into sleep, let yourself go. You do not have to stay to hear the rest. You have done the whole of the work already, which was only to let the wind fall, and it has fallen, and now there is nothing left but to sink gently into the still deep water of sleep. And if a new gust of worry rises, as it may, you need not be discouraged. A gust across still water is only a gust. It passes, and the water settles once more. Simply lower the anchor of the breath again, and wait again, trusting always that the wind falls, and that beneath every ripple the deep still water is waiting, unchanged, to hold the moon. Let us stay a while longer in this falling of the wind, for it cannot be hurried, and there is no need to hurry it. The old ferryman did not know the hour the wind would drop. He only knew that it would, and so he waited without anxiousness, resting in his cove, letting the waiting itself be a kind of rest. And you may wait the same way tonight. You do not need to know when the mind will still or make it still by any effort. You have only to shelter in the breath and wait, trusting, as the ferryman trusted, that the wind of the restless mind always falls in the end. Feel the breath drop deeper with each cycle, in and a long slow out, and the anchor settles a little deeper into the calm below. In and out, and deeper still, into water so deep and so still that no wind has ever reached it, that no worry has ever troubled. A vast quiet depth that has been there all along beneath every storm you have ever known. You are resting there now, anchored in the deep, and the surface far above may do as it likes, for it can no longer move you at all. You are held, you are still, you are deep, deep beneath the reach of the wind, in a calm that nothing can trouble. And on the surface, far above you, the last ripples fade into glass, and the lake lies still and dark and perfect, and the moon lies mirrored upon it. Above and below, the water and the sky become one seamless field of stillness, with you resting in the deep between them, quiet, anchored, wholly at rest. There is no wind here. There is nothing to stir. There is only the still, deep water and the mirrored moon, and your slow anchored breath, and the vast and simple and complete peace of a mind that has come at last all the way to rest. So let the top slow and the wind fall, and the water flatten into stillness, and let yourself begin to sink towards sleep. There is nothing to grab at tonight, nothing to force still. Only watch and breathe, and let the spinning gentle on its own, slower and slower, until all is quiet and all is deep, and the last of the wind has gone, and you are carried softly and completely under into sleep. You have done the whole of the work already, which was only to let the wind fall, and it has fallen. Now there is nothing left to do at all but sink gently and completely into the still, deep, moonlit water of sleep, and let it close softly and warmly over you, and carry you gently down, and hold you there, safe and quiet, until the morning. Let us rest here for a moment. If the wind of worry has been rippling the water tonight, stop rowing against it, and stop fanning it, and simply shelter in your slow breath and wait. The wind always falls. Let the ripples grow smaller. Let the water begin to still. Let the lake of the mind grow flat and calm enough to hold the quiet moon. When you are ready, we will go on together. We have watched the wind fall and the water flatten into a mirror. But there is one last stir of the water, subtler than all the rest, and it is the one that whispers in the small hours that perhaps the stillness will never come at all. It is doubt, the muddy water in the dark, and to that quiet, undermining voice we turn now with all the gentleness it needs. For it is the subtlest of all the stirrers of the water, and it works most quietly, because it undermines the very rest it interrupts. It is doubt, not doubt about great matters, but the small, corrosive doubt that visits us in the dark and whispers that nothing we are doing will work. This will never quiet down. I will never fall asleep. Something is wrong with me. There is no point even trying. It is the voice that gives up and pulls us out of the very stillness that was beginning to gather, and stirs the water all over again. The Buddha had an image for doubt, and it completes the set of the 5 stirrers of the water. He said that a mind full of doubt is like a bowl of water that is muddy and turbid, and set down in the dark, in a place with no light at all. Think of how helpless that is. The other troubled waters, the coloured, the boiling, the weed-choked, the wind-stirred, could at least be seen in the daylight. But muddy water in the dark cannot be seen at all, and worse, In that darkness, you cannot even tell whether the water will ever clear, or whether there is any clear water to be had, or whether it is worth waiting for at all. That is doubt. It is not only that the mind is unclear, it is that in the dark of doubt, we lose faith that clarity is even possible, and so we stop waiting for it and stir the mud again and give up. A traveler came at nightfall to a well in an unfamiliar country, thirsty from a long day's walking, and lowered the bucket into the dark. When he drew it up, in the last grey light, the water looked cloudy and unclear, and he could not tell if it was good. And a doubt seized him. Perhaps this water is bad, he thought. Perhaps I will make myself ill. He peered into the bucket, but the light was failing and the water was clouded, and the more he stared, the less certain he became, until he had half a mind to pour it out and go thirsty into the night, rather than trust water he could not see clearly. An old woman drawing water at the next well saw him hesitating in the dusk, and she called over gently. "Friend," she said, "you cannot judge water by staring at it in the dark. Set the bucket down, let it rest through the night, and look at it in the morning light, and then you will see clearly whether it is good. But do not throw it out now in the dark, on the strength of a doubt you cannot even see well enough to trust." The traveler set the bucket down beside him and slept. And in the morning, in the clear light, he looked and found that the water had settled and cleared completely overnight, and was pure and sweet, and he drank deeply and was glad he had not poured it out in the dark on the word of his doubt. For doubt comes in the dark, when we cannot see clearly, and urges us to give up on the very thing that would have been good if only we had waited for the light. The traveler nearly threw out good water because he judged it hastily in the dark by a doubt he mistook for knowledge, and we do the same with our own rest. In the dark of a sleepless night, doubt tells us that this will never work, that the stillness will never come, that there is no use waiting, and it urges us to give up, to get up, to abandon the settling that was quietly underway. But doubt in the dark is not a true report. It is only muddy water, seen without light, and the kindest thing always is to set the bucket down and wait, and not trust the doubt, and let the water settle through the night toward a clarity we cannot yet see but can quietly trust will come. And this is the deepest medicine for doubt, not to argue with it, for it will always have another objection, but simply to decline to believe it tonight. There was a woman who had begun, late in life, to sit quietly each evening, and for the first many weeks a doubt plagued her without mercy. Every time she sat, the doubt would start up. "This is pointless. You are no good at this. Nothing is happening. You are wasting your time." And it was so persistent and sounded so reasonable that again and again she nearly stopped. At last, she confided this to an old teacher, expecting him to tell her whether she was, in fact, wasting her time. But he did not answer the doubt's question at all. "The doubt you describe," he said, "is not the truth about your practice. It is the practice. Doubt is one of the very things that troubles every mind that seeks quiet. It is an old and famous visitor. So when it comes and says, 'This is pointless,' you need not believe it, and you need not argue with it. You need only recognize it. Ah, doubt has come again. There it is, right on time. And you may greet it the way you would greet a familiar traveler passing on the road, without inviting it in, without believing its news, and simply return to your sitting. The doubt is not a sign that you are failing. It is only a cloud, and clouds pass if you do not chase them. The woman took this to heart, and everything changed. The doubt still came, but now, instead of believing it or arguing with it, she simply named it. Ah, there is the doubt again. And she let it be and returned to her breath. And the doubt, unfed, unbelieved, unargued with, would drift on by. She had learned the secret, that doubt is disarmed not by winning the argument, which cannot be won, but by declining to have the argument at all. And here is a trust you can lean on tonight, more solid than any doubt. You have fallen asleep every single night of your life. Through every worry, every restless mind, every night you were sure you would never sleep. Sleep came in the end, as it always has. Your body knows how to sleep. It has done it thousands upon thousands of times. It does not need you to figure it out or force it or be sure of it. It needs only for you to stop stirring the water, to set the bucket down, to stop believing the doubt that says it will not come. It will come. It has never once failed to come. And the opposite of doubt is not certainty, but trust. And trust is a far gentler and more restful thing. Certainty is hard to come by, especially in the dark, but trust asks much less of us. Trust does not need to be sure. It only needs to be willing to wait, to set the bucket down and let it settle, to lie in the dark without demanding proof that morning will come. And morning always comes, whether we are certain of it or not. There is even a strange sweetness to be found in not knowing, once we stop fighting it. The doubting mind treats not knowing as unbearable, a problem to be solved before rest is allowed. But not knowing can also be a kind of rest, the deepest rest of all, the laying down of the exhausting need to have everything figured out. You do not know exactly when sleep will come, and you do not have to know. You do not know what tomorrow holds, and you do not have to know that either. There is an enormous relief hidden inside not knowing, if we will only stop struggling against it. The relief of no longer having to hold the whole uncertain world together with our worrying. So let us set the doubt down now, like a bucket left to settle overnight. Whatever the doubting voice has been telling you, that this will not work, that you will not sleep, that something is wrong, decline to believe it tonight. You do not have to argue with it or answer it. Only set it down and let it settle, and return to the slow breath and trust the morning. And let the body lead the way into this trust, for the body has never once doubted how to sleep. Feel it now, how it grows heavy, how it softens toward rest without any instruction from you. Your breath knows how to slow. Your heart knows how to quiet. The whole wise body knows the way down into sleep, and it needs only for the mind to grow quiet and trust, and let the body do what it has always known how to do. So let the doubting mind rest now, and hand the night over to the wise body that knows the way, and let yourself be carried down, trusting, into the sleep that is already rising to meet you. There was a gardener who, each autumn, buried her seeds and bulbs in the cold, dark earth just before the long winter. And a doubting neighbor once watched her do this and shook his head. "How do you know they will grow?" he asked. "You bury them in the cold and the dark, and then for months there is nothing. No sign, no green, only bare frozen ground. How can you stand it, not knowing?" The gardener smiled. "I do not dig them up to check," she said. "That is the whole secret." A doubting gardener, unable to bear the not knowing, digs up her seeds every few weeks to see if they are growing. And of course, by digging them up, she kills them. And so her doubt makes true the very failure she feared. But I leave them in the dark. I do not need to see them growing to trust that they grow. I trust the seed and the earth and the coming spring, and I let them do their slow work in the dark, unseen, undisturbed. And every spring they rise. I do not dig them up to check. There is the whole of the answer to doubt in a gardener's quiet wisdom. For doubt, at bottom, is the digging up of the seed. It cannot bear the not knowing, the dark, the absence of visible proof, and so it keeps disturbing the very process that would have worked if only it had been left alone. The restless mind, doubting that it will ever settle, keeps checking, keeps stirring, keeps digging up the seed of its own rest to see if it is growing yet, and by the checking holds the growth. But you may be the trusting gardener tonight. You may plant the seed of your rest in the dark and leave it there, undisturbed, not digging it up to check whether sleep is coming, not stirring the water to see if it has cleared, but trusting the dark and the settling and the sleep that has risen in you every night of your life to do its slow, quiet work unseen. So let us rest in that trust now, deeply. You do not have to be certain of anything tonight. You do not have to know when sleep will come, or whether the mind will fully still, or how the night will unfold. You have only to trust, as the gardener trusts the buried seed, as you may trust the 10,000 nights your body has already slept. Lay the seed of your rest in the dark and leave it there. Do not dig it up to check. Trust the dark do its work, and feel how much lighter it is to trust than to be certain. How much rest there is in simply being willing to wait in the dark for a morning you cannot see but can quietly, deeply trust will come. Let the questions be unanswered. Let the uncertainties be uncertain. Let tomorrow be unknown. And feel how, when you stop demanding to know, the not knowing softens into a kind of open, restful spaciousness, like lying under a vast night sky, whose depths you cannot measure and do not need to. You are held in the not knowing, as a seed is held in the dark earth, as a sleeper is held in the mystery of the night, and it is safe, and it is soft, and it asks nothing of you but that you rest in it and trust, and let the body lead you the rest of the way into this trust, for the body has never once doubted how to sleep, and it is already, even now, beginning its slow descent. Feel how it grows heavier against the bed, how the limbs soften and loosen without any command from you, how the breath deepens and slows of its own accord. The wise body knows the way down into sleep. It has walked that path thousands of times, and it does not need the doubting mind to guide it or approve it. So let the mind hand the whole night over to the body now, and simply come along, trusting as a passenger trusts the road, letting the deep animal wisdom of rest carry you gently down while you do nothing at all but breathe and trust and let go. There is nothing tonight you must be sure of, and nothing you must resolve before you sleep. The doubt may come and go as it likes. You need not believe a word of it. Only set the bucket down and trust the dark and rest. Let the doubting voice grow quiet now and rest in the simple trust of the buried seed and the wise sleeping body. Let us rest here for a moment. If doubt has been whispering to you tonight that this is hopeless, that sleep will never come, set the doubt down like muddy water left to settle, and decline, just for now, to believe it. You do not have to answer it. You have only to return to the breath and trust, with the confidence of every night you have ever slept, that the water will clear and the rest will come. When you are ready, we will go on together. We have now met all 5 of the stirrers of the water and learned that each one settles when we stop feeding it and let it be. But there is a deeper freedom still, beneath the settling of any single disturbance, and it comes from seeing what thoughts truly are and what you truly are beneath them. And so we turn now to the wide night sky of the mind and to the thoughts that drift across it like clouds. For it is a quiet turning that changes everything, a shift so simple and so deep that once it is felt even a little, the whole struggle with the racing mind begins to dissolve. It is the discovery that you are not your thoughts, that beneath all the thinking, watching it, aware of it, there is something you more truly are, something that was never caught up in the racing at all. All night, when the mind is busy, we are pulled along by our thoughts as though we were the thoughts, as though there were no distance between us and them, as though each thought that arose was simply us, carried helplessly wherever the thinking goes. And as long as we are lost in the thoughts this way, taken up into them, we suffer every one of them, tossed from worry to worry with no ground to stand on. But there is a ground, there is a place to stand. It is the simple awareness in which all the thoughts appear, the quiet watching presence that notices each thought come and notices it go, and is not itself any of them. There was a man who believed, without ever questioning it, that every thought in his head was a command he had to obey, and a truth he had to take seriously. If a worried thought arose, he worried. If an angry thought arose, he grew angry. He lived entirely at the mercy of his thoughts, blown about by each one as it came, and at night this was torture, for the thoughts came thick and fast, and he felt he had to attend to every single one. One day, he met an old woman sitting peacefully by a road that ran past her house, watching the travellers go by, and something in her deep calm made him stop and ask her secret. She gestured to the road. All day, she said, I sit here and I watch the travellers pass. Merchants, beggars, soldiers, children, all sorts, going this way and that. And I've learned something simple. I do not have to get up and follow every traveller who passes. I do not have to invite each one into my house or believe every story they tell or take up their business as my own. I simply sit and watch them pass and let them go on their way. I am not the travellers. I am the one who watches them pass. Your thoughts, she said, are travellers on the road of your mind, and you have been leaping up to follow every one, inviting each one in, believing every story until you are worn to nothing. But you do not have to. You can simply sit and watch them pass and let them go on their way. You are not the thoughts. You are the one who watches them pass, and the one who watches is always at peace, whatever passes by. We suffer our thoughts because we mistake ourselves for them, because we leap up and follow every one. But we are not the thoughts. We are the awareness in which they arise and pass, the quiet watcher by the road, and that watcher is not troubled by the traffic, however heavy. This is what the old teachers meant when they spoke of the mind as the sky. A thought is like a cloud that forms in the sky, drifts across it, and dissolves. And we are not the clouds. We are the sky, the wide open space in which the clouds appear and move and vanish, the vast stillness that holds all the weather and is touched by none of it. The clouds may be dark or light, a passing wisp or a whole grey cover, but the sky remains the sky, untouched, unstained, holding it all and being none of it. And you are that sky. The thoughts are only the weather passing through you, and you are the wide, dark, peaceful sky through which they pass. A young student, learning to quiet her mind, complained to her teacher that she could not stop her thoughts. The teacher took her to a stream in the forest where fallen leaves were drifting down on the moving water and said, "Sit and watch the leaves float by." Some floated quickly, some slowly, some caught for a moment on a stone and then floated free again, and all of them, in the end, drifted on downstream and out of sight. "Now," said the teacher, "this is what I want you to do with your thoughts. When a thought arises, do not fight it and do not follow it. Simply place it on a leaf and let the stream carry it away. Another thought comes. Place it on a leaf. Let it float on. You are not trying to stop the stream, and you are not trying to stop the leaves. You are only sitting on the bank, watching them drift past and away, one after another, letting each one go." The student practiced this and found a great ease in it. Each thought that arose, she simply set on a leaf and let the stream carry off, and turned her gaze back to the water for the next. And the thoughts, placed on their leaves and released, drifted away downstream and were gone, and between them the stream ran quiet, and she sat on the bank at peace, no longer caught in the current, but resting beside it. You may sit on that bank tonight. Each thought that comes, you need not fight and need not follow. You may simply set it gently on a leaf and let the stream of the mind carry it away, and turn back to the quiet water and to your breath for the next. There is an old and simple story that says this best of all. There was a small wave far out in the ocean, rolling toward the shore, and as it neared the land and saw the great waves ahead of it breaking and vanishing on the beach, it was seized with terror. "I am going to crash and disappear," it cried. "This is the end of me." But another wave, rolling alongside it, said gently, "Do not be afraid. You are not what you think you are. You are a wave, yes, but you are also the ocean. You are not just this small rising form of water, here for a moment and then gone. You are the whole deep sea, which rises into 1,000,000 waves and receives them all back again, and is never diminished, never ended, always here." And the little wave grew quiet and understood and was no longer afraid. You are like that little wave, and your thoughts are like the waves, and the awareness you rest in is like the deep sea. Each thought rises for a moment, a small shape upon the surface, and breaks and is gone, and another rises after it. And if you think you are the thoughts, the individual waves, then each one's passing tosses you. But you are not the waves. You are the deep sea in which they rise and fall, the awareness that gives rise to every thought and receives it back again, and is never diminished, never troubled, always at peace in its depths, however the surface may toss. So let us rest as that deep awareness now, as the sky, as the quiet watching presence that holds all the thoughts and is none of them. Let the thoughts rise and break upon the surface and rest in the still depths beneath where nothing is disturbed. Notice the small gaps of silence between the thoughts and let them widen, and let the quiet spread. You are not the racing surface. You are the deep and peaceful sea. You are not the passing weather. You are the wide and silent sky. You do not have to hold on to any of this or remember it or do it correctly. You have only to let yourself rest again and again back into the quiet knowing that you already are, and that has been at peace this whole time, beneath every thought, holding the whole restless night in a quiet that was never once disturbed. Let us rest a while longer as this quiet awareness, letting it deepen, for there is no hurry, and this resting is itself the sweetest thing. You do not have to do anything to be this awareness. You already are it. You are being it right now, effortlessly, as you notice these very words arising and passing in the same open space where all your thoughts arise and pass. There is nothing to achieve, nothing to reach, nothing to become. You have only to relax back into what you already are, the still and knowing presence that has been here all along, quietly aware, quietly at peace, beneath every busy thought of your whole busy day. And as you rest as awareness, you might notice that awareness itself asks for nothing and lacks nothing. It does not need the thoughts to stop. It is perfectly content to let them come and go, for it is not disturbed by them, any more than a mirror is disturbed by the images that pass across it. The mirror reflects the storm and the calm alike, and is never wet, never cold, never broken. The awareness that you are reflects every thought, the anxious and the peaceful, and is never anxious, never troubled, never anything but the clear, still knowing that it is. So you need not wait for the thoughts to stop before you can rest. You may rest now, as the mirror, as the sky, as the awareness that is already and always at peace. Feel too how this awareness has no edges, no walls, how it is open and spacious and wide. When we are lost in thought, the world shrinks to the size of the thought, tight and small and pressing. But when we rest back into awareness, we feel how vast and open it is, roomy enough to hold every thought with space to spare, wide as the night sky, deep as the sea, an openness in which the whole restless mind floats like a few small clouds in an enormous sky. Let yourself feel that spaciousness now. Let the walls of the small, tight, worried self grow soft and dissolve, and open out into the wide, boundless space of awareness itself. There is so much room here. There is room for every thought and every feeling, and space around each one, and a great open peace holding it all. Rest in that spaciousness. Rest as that spaciousness, and let the small, tight self dissolve for this quiet hour into the wide and open and peaceful sky of what you truly are. And you might feel this gently by noticing the small gaps between your thoughts. For thoughts do not actually run together in an unbroken stream, though it can seem so. Watch closely, and you will find there are tiny spaces between them, little gaps of silence where one thought has ended and the next has not yet begun. And in those gaps, however brief, there is only awareness resting in itself, quiet and open and at peace. As you rest tonight, you might simply notice those gaps, not trying to make them longer, only noticing that they are there, these small openings of pure quiet between the thoughts. And you may find that the more you notice the gaps, the more they open, the more the quiet spreads, until the thoughts grow further apart and the spaces between them widen into a deep and restful stillness. For there is a deep and natural sleep that lives within this resting as awareness. And when we stop clinging to the thoughts and sink back into the still knowing beneath them, the mind naturally quiets and the body follows, and sleep rises on its own out of that stillness. So let yourself sink back now, out of the thinking and into the awareness, out of the waves and into the deep, out of the clouds and into the wide open sky, and let the deep stillness of your own quiet and knowing presence carry you gently and softly down towards sleep. So let yourself settle back again and again into that open and peaceful awareness whenever the thoughts try to pull you back onto the surface. You are the deep, not the wave. You are the sky, not the cloud. You are the still knowing in which it all arises and passes, and you are already at rest. There is nothing to hold, nothing to figure out, nothing to become. Only this quiet resting back into what you already and always are, softer and deeper with each slow breath, until the surface grows still, and the depths grow dark and warm, and sleep rises to meet you out of your own quiet presence. You do not have to hold on to any of this, or remember it, or do it correctly. You have only to let yourself rest again and again, back into the quiet knowing that you already are, and let that stillness deepen on its own into sleep. And notice, as you rest there, how the thoughts that remain have grown thinner, further apart, less urgent, mere wisps of cloud in a vast and darkening sky. You are the sky, and the evening has come, and the sky is growing quiet and dark and still, ready now to hold its quiet stars. Let it darken now. Let it grow still. Let the last few clouds drift slowly off toward the far horizon and dissolve one by one and rest as the wide, dark, peaceful sky of night, holding only silence now and the slow, soft breath and the first stirrings of sleep. Rest there now as the wide and darkening sky, holding its first few stars, and let that deep stillness carry you softly and completely down towards sleep. Let us rest here for a moment. If your thoughts have been carrying you off tonight, remember that you are not the thoughts, but the quiet one who watches them pass. Let them drift by like travelers on a road, like leaves on a stream, like clouds across the wide, dark sky. Do not follow them and do not fight them. Only watch and breathe and rest as the sky that holds them all. When you are ready, we will go on together. To watch the thoughts pass is a great freedom, and there is a small and gentle practice that makes the watching easier still. A soft way of meeting each thought that loosens its grip almost the moment it arises. It is the practice of naming, of quietly noting what comes, and to that tender art we turn now. For it is the gentlest of practices, so simple that it hardly seems like a practice at all, and yet it has a quiet power to calm the racing mind that has surprised people for a very long time. It is the practice of naming, of softly, kindly noting what arises in the mind, giving it a quiet name, and in that naming, finding that it loosens and settles and passes more easily than it ever did when it was nameless. There is something about a nameless flood that overwhelms us. When the mind is racing and we are lost in it, it is all one great formless surge, a chaos of thinking with no edges, and it feels enormous and unmanageable. But the moment we begin to name what is actually there, gently, one thing at a time, the formless flood resolves into distinct and passing things, each one small, each one nameable, each one already on its way out. This is worrying, we notice. This is remembering. This is planning. And a thing that can be named and noticed is no longer the overwhelming flood. It is just this one small nameable thing, arising and passing, which we can watch and let go. A child lay awake in the dark, frightened, for the night was full of sounds she could not name, and each unnamed sound was, to her, a lurking danger. A creak, a rustle, a low moan, a tapping, and her heart raced, for she did not know what any of them were, and the not knowing made them monstrous. She called out, and her grandmother came and sat on the edge of the bed and did a very simple thing. She listened with the child to the frightening sounds and named each one gently as it came. That, she said, is only the wind moving the branch against the window, and that is only the old house settling and creaking as it cools, as it does every night, and that sound, that is only the owl in the elm calling as owls do, and that tapping is only the rain beginning on the roof. And as the grandmother named each sound one by one, a remarkable thing happened. The sounds that had been monsters became simply the wind, the house, the owl, the rain. Named, they were no longer frightening. They were only the ordinary sounds of an ordinary night, each one known, each one harmless. And the child, who had been rigid with fear of a nameless dark, softened and grew calm and was soon asleep, lulled now by the very sounds that had terrified her. The racing thoughts of a sleepless mind are exactly like those sounds in the dark. Nameless, they are a formless, frightening flood. But named gently, one by one, they become only what they are. This is worrying. This is remembering. This is planning. Ordinary movements of the mind, known and harmless and passing. So this is the practice for tonight, the softest of all. When a thought or a feeling arises, you might simply give it a quiet, gentle name. Not a harsh label, not a judgment, only a soft noting of what it is. If the mind is planning tomorrow, you might note, quietly, planning. And having named it, you need do nothing more. You simply return to the breath. If a worry arises, you might note softly, worrying. There it is, named, and return to the breath. If a memory comes, remembering. Each thing named and released, and the breath returned to again and again, softly, all through the quiet hour. And the naming works not only on thoughts, but on feelings and on the sensations of the body. If there is tension, you might note, softly, tension, and feel where it is, and having named it, breathe into it and let it be. If there is an unease you cannot name, you might simply note, unease, and even that soft acknowledgement loosens its grip, for it has been seen. Whatever arises in the mind or the body may be met with the same gentle naming, the same kind acknowledgement, this too, until all of it is seen and named and allowed to settle. There's a great tenderness in that phrase, this too, and you might carry it with you into sleep. A worry rises, this too. An ache, this too. A memory, this too. Sleeplessness itself, this too. It is a way of making room for everything, of refusing nothing, of letting the whole of your experience be here without fighting any of it. This too belongs. This too may be here. This too will pass. And in that gentle allowing, the struggle ends, for there is no longer anything being pushed away. For often the thoughts race hardest precisely because they feel unheard. They come again and again, louder and louder, because they are trying to be acknowledged, and as long as we push them away unnamed, they keep coming back to clamour at the gate. But when we turn gently and name each one, yes, I see you, worry. Yes, I see you, memory. Something in them relaxes, for they have been heard at last, and the thing that has been heard no longer needs to shout. Naming is a kind of listening, a kind of gentle acknowledgement, and thoughts that are acknowledged settle. The way a child who is truly heard grows calm, the way the named sounds in the dark became only the wind and the rain. And notice gently that this naming is itself an act of kindness, a way of turning toward your own experience with warmth instead of war. When you name a worry and say, "Yes, I see you," you are not attacking it. You are meeting it with the same gentleness you would offer a frightened friend. And your inner world responds to this kindness exactly as a person would, growing calmer for being met with warmth rather than war. In the old days, in walled towns, there was a night watchman who walked the streets through the dark hours, and at each hour he would call out what he saw. 12 o'clock he would call, and all is well. 1 o'clock and all is well. And the people lying in their beds, half asleep, would hear the watchman naming the hours in the dark, "All is well, all is well," and they would sink back into sleep reassured, for someone was awake and watching, and had named the night and found it safe. You might be your own kind night watchman tonight. As the thoughts and feelings pass through the dark streets of your mind, you might name them gently and find them harmless and say to yourself softly, "All is well." Here is a worry passing through. All is well. Here is a memory walking by. All is well. Here is the sleepless mind itself wandering the streets. All is well. Nothing that passes through the night is a danger. It is only the ordinary traffic of a human mind at night, named and known and harmless. So let us name our way gently now towards sleep, letting it grow slower and softer as we go. Whatever arises, meet it with a soft name and a kind acknowledgement, this too, and let it settle. And notice, as the naming continues, how the things to be named grow fewer and quieter and further apart, how the mind, met with all this gentle acknowledgement, begins to grow still, and soon, perhaps, there is a new thing to name, the sweetest of all, sleepiness. Ah, here is sleepiness, come at last. Hello, sleepiness. Yes, you are welcome, and you need not even name it, really, for now the naming itself may soften and slow and fall away, no longer needed, as the mind grows quiet and the body grows heavy and the warm tide of sleep begins to rise. Let the last few names grow faint and slow. Let the gentle watchman's voice, "All is well, grow softer and further off, like a voice heard from another room as you drift down into sleep. There is nothing left to name now, nothing left unaccounted for, nothing left wandering in the dark. All has been seen. All has been named with kindness. All is well. And you may let the naming fall away entirely now, and let even the watching soften, and let yourself sink gently and completely into the deep and quiet rest that has been waiting for you all along. There is one more comfort in this practice, and it is perhaps the greatest. When we name what arises with kindness, night after night, we slowly become gentler with ourselves in all things, less at war with our own minds, more at home in our own company. The racing mind was never the enemy. It was only a frightened, restless part of us that needed to be met with patience instead of force. And each night that you meet it with a soft name and a kind word, instead of a battle, you are teaching your own heart that it is safe, that it is allowed to rest, that it will be met with gentleness rather than war. And a heart that knows it is safe, that knows it will be met with kindness, is a heart that can finally, deeply rest. So you might make your naming very tender tonight, very warm, as though you were soothing a child. Ah, there is worry again, come to visit. Hello, worry, I see you. You may rest now. Ah, there is a busy thought. Hello, thought, I see you, off you go. Ah, here is the sleepless feeling itself. Hello, I see you too, and you are welcome, and you may stay as long as you like, for I am not fighting you tonight. Meet everything this way with a soft and smiling kindness, and feel how the whole inner world settles under such gentleness, the way a room full of restless children settles when someone kind comes in and speaks to each one softly by name. And so we let the naming carry us the last of the way, softly, kindly, towards sleep. Name whatever is here gently and let it settle. Thinking, yes, and the breath. Worrying, yes, I see you, and the breath. And with each name, let a little more of you soften and sink toward rest. Feel the body growing heavier now, the shoulders letting go, the hands unfolding, the face growing smooth and still. Feel the breath slowing on its own, deepening, each slow breath out carrying a little more of the day away into the dark. There is nothing left to hold now, nothing left to solve, nothing left to name but the sweet heaviness of sleep itself, rising warm and slow to gather you in. Let the thoughts grow few and far apart, like the last leaves drifting down a quieting stream, and let the spaces between them fill with a deep and gentle silence. Let the watchman's voice grow faint and far. All is well, all is well. A soft refrain fading into another room as you drift down and down, past thinking, past naming, past watching, into the still deep water of sleep. You are safe. You are held. The night is keeping its watch, and there is nothing left for you to do now but let go, softly and completely, and sink into the deep and simple and long-awaited rest. All is well, as you drift, at last, into sleep. For the naming was never really about the thoughts at all. It was about learning to meet yourself and your own tired, restless mind with tenderness instead of war. And that tenderness is the truest doorway into rest. A heart met with kindness lets go. A mind spoken to gently grows quiet. And you have been so gentle tonight, so patient, so kind to the whole passing weather of your mind, that there is nothing left now but to let that same kindness carry you softly over the threshold into sleep. So let the naming grow slower now and softer and further apart, until the words themselves begin to dissolve, and there is nothing left to name and nothing left to do. Whatever is here, it has been seen and named and met with real kindness and allowed to settle in its own time, and now it rests quietly, and you rest along with it. Feel the whole of you grow heavy and warm and still. Feel the breath moving slow and deep, all on its own, needing nothing from you. There is nothing left to solve tonight, nothing left to watch, nothing left to name. All is seen, all is named, all is well, and there is only the soft dark now, and the slow breath, and the deep and gentle tide of sleep rising now, warm and slow, to gather you in and carry you gently down, at last, into a long and quiet and untroubled rest. And this is the gift the whole night has been quietly giving you. Not a technique to master, but a kindness to receive. The simple mercy of meeting your own tired mind with warmth, and letting that warmth loosen everything that was held tight, and letting the loosening become rest, and the rest become sleep. You have done nothing tonight but be gentle with yourself, and that gentleness is enough, more than enough, to carry you the rest of the way. So let it. Let the kindness you have offered your own mind all through this quiet hour turn now, softly, into the deep and simple rest of sleep, and let yourself be carried, gently and completely, down into it, held and safe and warm through all the quiet hours. All is well, until the gentle coming of the morning. Let us rest here for a moment. If the mind has been a nameless flood tonight, meet it now with gentle naming. Whatever arises, give it a soft name, worrying, remembering, planning, and acknowledge it kindly. Yes, I see you, and let it go and return to the breath. Name each frightening sound in the dark until it becomes only the wind, only the rain. All is named, all is seen, all is well. When you are ready, we will go on together, gently, toward the close. We have let the stirrers of the water settle, watched the thoughts pass like clouds, and named gently what arises. And now, at last, the water has had its long night of settling, and the wind has fallen, and the mind grows still. And so we come, in this final quiet hour, to the lake at rest, and to the deep and simple sleep that has been waiting for us all along. For the lake is still now. After the long night of settling, after the wind has fallen and the silt has drifted down, and the last clouds have crossed the sky, the water of the mind lies quiet at last, dark and smooth and clear, and holds the whole of the night sky upon its surface, the stars, and the wide dark, and the round silver moon, mirrored so perfectly that you cannot tell the moon above from the moon below. This is where we have been walking all these quiet hours, not towards some new thing to be gained, but back toward this, the stillness that was always here beneath the racing, the clear water that was always waiting beneath the silt. We have come a long way together this evening, and it is worth gathering it up gently before we let it all go. We began by learning that the racing mind is not the enemy, and that the fighting is the disturbance, and that we might simply take our hands out of the water and let the pond settle on its own. We saw that the mind is like a bowl of water that clears not by effort but by rest, and we met, one by one, the 5 familiar things that stir it: the reaching, wanting mind that colours the water, the heat of anger that boils it, the heaviness that chokes it like weeds, the wind of worry that ripples it, and the doubt that clouds it in the dark. And we learn that each one settles the same way, not by force, but by our ceasing to feed it and letting it be. Then we saw more deeply that we are not the thoughts at all, but the wide sky through which they pass, the deep sea beneath the waves, the quiet watcher by the road. And we learn the gentle art of naming what arises, of meeting each thought and feeling with a soft word and a kind acknowledgement, until all was seen and named and allowed to settle, and all was well. You do not need to remember any of it. If one image has stayed with you, one story, one soft phrase, let that be enough, and let it do its quiet work in its own time. And if nothing has stayed, that is well too. The teachings will settle where they settle, like silt to the bottom of a clearing pool. For this is the last and quietest truth of all, that the mind clears itself in the end, if we will only let it. You did not have to force the water still tonight. You had only to stop stirring it, and the stillness came on its own, as it always does, as it always will, on every night you have ever slept, and every night still to come. The clear water was never something you had to make. It was only something you had to stop disturbing. And it is here now, this clear, still water, this quiet lake holding the moon, and it was here the whole time, waiting beneath everything for you. So there is nothing left to do now but rest, nothing to solve, nothing to settle, nothing to reach for or fight or figure out. The work of the night, such as it was, is finished, and it was never really work at all, only a letting go, only a taking of the hands out of the water. And now you may let even that go and simply be here, held by the bed wrapped in the dark, resting on the still surface of a quiet mind, like the moon resting on the still surface of a quiet lake. Let us take these last few minutes simply to rest the body down, slowly and completely, the way you might lower something precious into still water. Let the whole weight of you be given over now to what holds you. Feel the places where your body meets the bed, the back of the head, the shoulders, the length of the spine, the backs of the legs, the heels, and let each of those places give its weight fully over so that you are carried entirely and hold yourself up nowhere at all. Let the face soften, the brow, the eyes, the jaw. Let the hands lie open. Let the breath move slowly, all on its own, low and easy, each breath out carrying a little more of the day away into the night, until there is less and less to hold, and the holding itself dissolves. And with each slow breath, let yourself sink a little deeper towards sleep, the way the moon's reflection sinks deep into the still water. There is no effort in this and nothing to reach for. Sleep is not a place you must travel to. It is what rises on its own when the striving stops, the way the stillness rose when the wind fell, the way the clear water appeared when the stirring ceased. So you need not chase it. You need only rest here on the still surface of the quiet mind and let sleep come up softly to meet you and gather you in and carry you down in its own gentle time. If any last thought drifts across the mind, let it drift like a single cloud crossing the face of the moon and pass, and let the sky grow still again behind it. If any last stirring rises, let it settle like the last grain of silt drifting down through clear water. There is nothing now that can trouble this stillness, for you are no longer fighting anything, no longer reaching or burning or bracing or doubting, only resting softly on the quiet lake of a mind at peace, and beneath you in the deep still water, and above you in the wide dark sky, the same quiet holds you, the same peace, the same gentle dark, and you are held between them, safe and quiet, and carried towards sleep. Let us let the whole body grow still now, part by part, the way a lake grows still from shore to shore when the last of the wind has gone. Bring a soft attention to the top of the head and let it soften, and let the small muscles of the scalp and the brow, which hold so much of our thinking, grow smooth and easy. Let the space between the eyebrows, where we furrow against the day, open and widen. Let the eyes grow heavy in their sockets, no longer needing to look or search, resting back into the dark. Let the cheeks soften. Let the jaw, that great clencher of tension, release, so the teeth part slightly and the tongue rests easy in the mouth. Feel how much quiet holding lived in the face and how good it is to set it down, and let the softening move down, slow and warm, like still water spreading. Let the throat soften and the neck and the shoulders, which have carried the weight of so many days. Let them drop down and back, away from the ears into the deep support of the bed. Let the arms grow heavy, the upper arms, the elbows, the forearms, the wrists, and the hands, those hands that have gripped and reached and held on so long. Let them fall open, the fingers uncurling, the palms soft and empty. Let the chest, which braces around our worries, grow soft, so the breath can move freely, low and slow and full. Let the belly release and rise and fall on its own, without effort. Let the back settle. Let the hips grow heavy. Let the long muscles of the legs, the thighs, the knees, the calves, the ankles, and the very soles of the feet, let all of it soften and grow heavy and sink into the support beneath you, until the whole body is at rest, held, carried, needing to hold itself up nowhere at all. And as the body settles, the breath settles with it, growing slower and quieter and deeper, each breath arriving on its own and leaving on its own, asking nothing of you. You do not have to breathe. You are being breathed gently, faithfully, as you have been breathed every moment of your life, waking and sleeping without your effort or your watching. So you may hand the breathing over now entirely to the wise body that knows how, and simply rest in the slow rocking of it, the soft rise and the soft fall, like the gentle lift and settle of still water under a quiet sky. And you might let a few soft wishes move through you now, the oldest kind of kindness, offered first to yourself, here, tonight. May I be at ease. May I be gentle with myself. May I rest. And then, if you like, let those same wishes widen outward to the ones you love, sleeping or waking somewhere in the same night. May they be at ease. May they rest. And wider still, to all the countless others lying awake tonight as you have lain awake, all the tired hearts and racing minds in all the dark rooms of the world, all of them longing as you long for stillness and for sleep. May they be at ease. May their minds grow quiet. May they and you and all of us rest. There is a great quiet comfort in this widening, in remembering that you are not alone in the night, that the racing mind is the old human trouble, shared by everyone who has ever tried to sleep with a busy heart, and that the same stillness you have found tonight is being sought, this very moment, by more hearts than you could ever count. And it is here for all of them, as it is here for you always beneath the racing, waiting only to be let be. Let those wishes fade now softly, like the last ring of a bell thinning into silence, and let even them go. There is nothing left to wish, nothing left to do, nothing left to hold. Only the still lake and the mirrored moon and the slow, soft breath and the deep and gathering rest. Should the mind stir again, even now, even here at the very end, you need do nothing at all but notice it softly and let it settle once more, the way you have learned all through this night. If a thought comes, let it pass like a cloud across the moon. If a worry rises, name it gently and let it go, and return to the breath. There is no wrong way to rest now, and nothing you can do to spoil it. The lake has been still before and been stirred and grown still again 10,000 times, and it will grow still again tonight, however many times it needs to, without any effort from you, simply because stillness is its nature and yours beneath everything. And you do not have to stay awake to see the night through. If sleep is near, let it take you whenever it will, mid-thought, mid-breath, mid-word. You will lose nothing by drifting off, for the whole of the teaching has already done its quiet work, and the rest is only rest. There is nothing left to understand and nothing left to finish. You have arrived already at the only place this long night was ever leading, which is here, this quiet breath, this still water, this soft and gathering dark. And all that remains is to let yourself be carried the last small way from resting into sleeping, as gently and as naturally as the evening turns to night. So let the last of your holding go now, all of it, and give yourself over completely to the rest that is rising to meet you. Let the still lake of the mind hold the moon. Let the wide sky hold its stars. Let the bed hold your body, and the night hold the bed, and the slow turning of the world hold the whole of it, safely while you sleep. You are held on every side by a great and gentle quiet, and you may let go into it entirely now, trusting, as you have trusted every night of your life, that the dark will keep you and the morning will come. And notice, as you lie here, how far away the racing has grown, how the loud and crowded mind you came in with has quietly loosened and thinned and settled, not because you fought it, but because you stopped. That is the whole of the gift you have given yourself tonight. Not a battle won, but a battle laid down. Not a mind forced silent, but a mind allowed at last to grow quiet on its own. And it will remember this. Something in you will remember on the nights to come that the way through the racing was never to fight it, but to let the water settle. And something in you will find this stillness a little more easily each time, until one night, perhaps, you hardly have to look for it at all, for it will simply be here, waiting, the moment you lie down. But that is for other nights. For this night, there is only this, the still lake, the mirrored moon, the slow and faithful breath, and the deep rest that has come at last to gather you in. You have done enough. You have understood enough. You may set the whole of it down now, gently, the teaching and the striving, and even the very effort to rest, and simply, softly sleep. May the racing mind, when it comes again on other nights, be met not with war, but with this same gentleness. May you remember, when you are tired, that you need not fight the water, only let it settle. May you learn, a little more each night, to take your hands out of the water, to let the thoughts pass like clouds, to name what arises with kindness, and to rest as the wide still sky that holds it all. And may you rest now, tonight, as deeply and as long as you need to rest. The lake is still. The moon is mirrored on the quiet water. The wind has fallen, and the silt has settled, and the sky is clear, and there is nothing left to do, and nowhere left to go, and nothing left to carry. You are exactly where you need to be. Let go now, softly and completely, and let the still deep water of sleep close gently over you and hold you through the night until the quiet coming of the morning. Rest now and sleep deeply and sleep well. And thank you from the heart for spending these quiet hours here